Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Just got to find this now. There we are. My name's Penn. We are here today representing the Honest Loaf, Arts and Bakery, and the Learning Loaf, which is our baking academy. I'll start briefly with the story of the Honest Loaf. The Honest Loaf was born out of my desire to create good bread. I'm a fifth generation baker. So at the age of 4 or 5 I was working in a bakehouse while we were talking about sort of free labour, etc. When I left school I had a choice really. I could have followed the family tradition of baking, which means getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or somebody from our advertising agency said, would you like to be a photographer? Now I thought, choice, getting up at 4 in the morning or getting to bed at 4 in the morning, what's it to be? I chose the photography. I then spent probably the next 30 years of my life bumbling around Fleet Street, probably just making a nuisance of myself. A couple of years back, I was a governor at another primary school in the borough. I had an interest in baking. I had a suspicion that a lot of the ingredients being used in our bread nowadays wasn't good stuff. And one of the teachers said, would I do a bread making class with the kids? I said yes. Turned up, did the bread making class, and came away really enthused. So I thought, this is great. I can now pick up the old family hat, back to the old trade. Which was great. We started out at home. We started off producing 1 or 2 loaves a week, selling them at local events. That got more and more successful. We've got quite a nice kitchen at home, but that we started to outgrow that. Our dining room became our immediate stock room. So that were 2 rooms out of commission. Our hallway became our goods in and goods out area. So when bags of flour arrived, they'd be stacked up there. When loaves were going out the door, they'd be stacked up there. That was getting a little bit tricky. The straw that broke the camel's back on that one was when bags of flour started appearing in the front room. Now, I was faced with 2 choices there. Either the bakery goes, or I go. I can't afford to get divorced again. That wasn't an option. Now, we met Tim years ago doing a few social or community events at the top of the hill there. And we had a conversation and it went something along the lines of, Tim said, what can I do to help you? And I said, let me use your kitchens while you're not using them. So Tim said, okay, let's walk across the playground. We had a look and I said, yeah, great, fine, thank you, that'll do. So that's how the Honest Loaf came to be at Charlton Manor. Now, by virtue of the fact that we've got no capital outlay, the rent we pay goes directly into back to the school. This might appeal to you guys later on. We'll talk about this. It also means we can work with exclusively organic products. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make bread within a community that is wholesome, nutritious, but we can afford, because we don't have to, we haven't got any big capital expenditure plans. It means we can produce an organic loaf at a reasonable cost for the community. Now, that is only supported by us being a social enterprise and working in kitchen space that is not being used. If we had the commercial restraints, I mean, our friends Bread Ahead, they've got, massive capital expenditure, which kind of restricts what they can do. And I think it's good that they're looking at the sort of like, getting involved with schools. But unless you've got the support of the schools and the support of the community, it doesn't tend to happen. Let's just quickly move on. Which one is it? that one. That's an example of us. What we do is, again, part of our social enterprise thing is we volunteer some of our time to work with people within the community. So it could be schools, it could be guides groups, brownies, cubs, scouts, whoever. Anybody that has a need and they've got sort of like the facilities for us, then we will pitch up and we will work with them. This is overly cute, this picture, isn't it? It really is. But that was one session we did here, I think last year, something like that. As I've said, we produce organic sourdough bread. I don't know if people are familiar with sourdough bread. My interest in sourdough bread came about the fact the Subway chain had elected to drop one ingredient from their bread rolls. Now, obviously I know a bit about baking and I thought, well, what's this one ingredient? I don't understand it. So I Googled it. And this one ingredient they use is a chemical which is used in the rubber industry. And it's put into rubber so that when rubber is warm, it's malleable, nice and bendy. When it's hard, it's a so-and-so to bend. So they put this chemical in there, keeps the rubber nice and bendy. They put this chemical in their bread rolls, keeps the bread rolls nice and bendy. I don't know what it does to your stomach. And I actually thought, well, I'm not going to try the experiment. I'm not going to try and find out what it does. And I really don't think that our children, with their digestive systems being half the size of ours, how they're going to cope with that kind of ingredient and all the other ingredients. So we set out to make an organic sourdough bread using just flour, salt and water. Organic. Salt and water can't be organic, but all the other materials we use are organic. The honest loaf, you might actually spot there's a slight irregularity between what's on there and what's on my t-shirt. This just goes to prove that just because you're dyslexic doesn't mean you can't be a good baker. So, you know, I'm wearing this one with pride now. It was a bit funny when they turned up a packet of them and I put the t-shirt on. This is about 11 o'clock at night and I said to my wife, I said, what do you think? And she went, how many did you order? And I went, no. What do you think? You know, look, web address is on the back, look. And she said, my question is, how many did you order? So I thought, well, here we go. I said, I'm 6, I think. She said, good. She said, how do you spell honest? And I went, H-O-N-E-S-T. She said, what's that on your shirt? And I went, the honest loaf. And she went, no, it's not. And it's not. So, yeah, there we go. You don't have to write good copy to be a good baker, fortunately. Right, moving on. Sorry, I should have had this a little bit better prepared, shouldn't I? Right. Gremlins. No, right. We'll let the slide come up. Now, what we believe about bread making is it, in terms of the opportunities that it provides to schools and communities, is it brings people together. What we've learned is through our bread making academies, you can get 10 strangers in a room, they make bread together, they leave as 10 friends, hopefully. When we work with young people, a lot of their sort of like their differences and animosities tend to sort of disappear because they're working with their hands, they're working with their minds, and most importantly, because if you've got a baking situation and you've got 30 kids, they have to work together. We will never have the room to have 30 workstations. It's got to be people working together. Obviously, learning new skills. You guys are talking a lot today about food within the curriculum. I'm not a curriculum expert. My business partner, who's just got in from Liverpool, Dr. Maxine Room, she knows all the academic stuff. But the common sense approach here, and this is just to reiterate what Tim does, is that making a loaf of bread, you're talking mathematics, you're talking language skills, you have to communicate, you have to write things down. You've got physics, you've got the action of heat upon materials, you've got chemistry, how you grow your own natural sourdough starter, you've got geography, where the wheat comes from, why people in different countries eat different breads. It's purely down to geography. That's my simplistic view on the education side. You guys would know the bigger picture, the greater story to that one. And very importantly is the improvement in well-being, the fact that people can have control and create their own food. And when we say our daily bread, we really mean that. We would like people to have control over and know what goes into, and it's a great problem for bakers nowadays because bread has been, let's say bad bread has been rightly demonised. The rubbish that you get in your supermarket for 99p is bad bread. And that's not good for you. Bad bread, not good for you. Good bread, I believe, is good for you. It contains carbohydrates. We use a long fermentation process, which means it's easier to digest. Because it's long processed, it doesn't have the enzymes in it that block absorption of other vitamins, etc., and minerals. So all in all, it's much better for you. I believe it's better for the environment as well. We only use organic materials. If it's not organic, it doesn't go into our bread. If it's not available as an organic material, then we tell people. That is the ethos of the honest loaf. Right. This is just a little plug here for our workshops. Now, we do our full-day workshops. You guys will see it, I think, later on. Will they go to see the training kitchen? You'll see the training kitchen that Tim's got, which absolutely knocks people out when we have them there for a course. That's where we do our full-day courses on a Saturday. We have our next slide, please. There we go. Shameless advertising again. Our evening workshops, we've teamed up now with another social enterprise down in Woolwich Arsenal. It's an enterprise called the Viridian Group, and they've got a kitchen down there that isn't being used, and they need to promote the fact they are a social hub in pretty much kind of an anti-social environment down there. It's very much a gated community. People very much stick to themselves. So they're hoping that we can get down there and start to engender just a little bit of that community spirit. Because, the bottom line, the smell of freshly baked bread, that really should turn you on. I think that's about it from me. Thank you very much.